record properly. Okay. Alright. So if you just came in, I had the mech in the photo, and I just I made the adjustments, and I made a selection around the mech, and I extracted it from the background, so I have it independent, because I don't want to use this white background. It's just there to kind of have a clean mask. Yeah, exactly. And then from here, I implemented this photo, and this photo is inspired off of this image right here. So I pulled out this bottom piece, and I kind of stretched it out, and I painted in. Whoa. Yeah. I painted in just the areas where it wasn't filling up, like down here and stuff. So that's where we are right now in the demo. So right now, what I'm doing is, oh man, let's see if this works. Okay. I just want to put in some like visual elements. So if I were to draw this out, maybe there's like a building here. You know, this thing's kind of in a more post-apocalyptic setting. And maybe we see like bubble and stuff back here in the distance. And there's something here, and it's kind of leading up to this point. So this thing might be like one of those mechs that goes around patrolling and seeing if there's like civilians and stuff left alive. I don't know if it's necessarily like aiding, like a robot that goes around aiding people, but maybe it just goes around cleaning up the people that are still lingering. So also, I pulled up 3 images, like environment, color palette for the mech, and then decals. So these are the 3 things that I want to just stick with. You know, I want to keep it very simple. Just gonna rough it in. Just change this light source a little bit. Make it a little bit more, give it more of like a warmer, like this warmer, dingier tone. And then maybe just like the sunlight just beating through. So all the stuff in the back, like I would, you know, keep it fairly loose and simple for yourself, because again, the attention is the mech. So I just want to put compositional placements here, whatever that may be. It can be like a forest, or you know, in this sense, it's more like just buildings and just structure that, you know, we can kind of see or kind of get a sense of. Change the hue of this thing. Hey, well. Yeah. I wanted to. Yeah. I just wanted to kind of like literally paint on this physical layer instead of having to adjust it on another layer. Because I know I'm not gonna really go back on it. So because I want it darker, and I want the edges here to kind of not be so white. Pull-ups, just building reference. I want to use all this stuff, man. This stuff's tight. It's pretty big file. I mean, the bit I want to use is probably just this stuff here. I don't know if that's gonna work the way I want. What's up? Yeah. So I'm pulling a sample of like a building from a photo, and the reason why I'm doing this is so that I can just kind of blend it in, but also sample just a piece of it. And that way, from here, I can just paint in the remaining structure. And also just helps with scale, because it gives me a reminder of like how big I should make the windows and stuff, and what I should push and pull. You see how like this stuff starts to come alive, like right here, and all these like little things right here you can paint in and just kind of fake it. You can multiply it. Put it in the back somewhere. Make it a little bit more distant. This is just a quick. I mean, don't get as lazy as I'm getting right now. This is me being like kind of lazy about this, but is interesting. What is this? What? Do you know what this is right here? Every time I type something, there's something that pops up. Yeah, this is I'm gonna turn that off. Horrible, man. Oh, it's in Korean. No wonder, dude. I can't understand my English. That is hilarious. Dude. That is... Alright, that's kind of lame, man. Sorry. Got some like cloud brushes here. Bringing my mech back in here. Curves. Yeah, what's a really good thing to do is just kind of treat everything flat, and then you can do extreme lighting scenarios on curves. It's a great way to just to kind of test out lighting. So if you look at this lighting scenario here, it's pretty flat. You know, there's no real like definite light source except the clouds. But if I wanted to affect like things in the background or things on the building, then I would try to handle that using curves as an adjustment, and then just kind of go in there and just test out how lighting could really affect, you know,
Your initial thought was to warm it up though?
The lighting?
Yeah.
Yeah, just because everything's kind of cooler,
Right.
so this would kind of balance out, you know, light versus cold, light versus cool. Maybe the light's only hitting at a certain angle there. And then I can, if you want, you can lasso out if you want like sharper edges. Get some of that bloom right through and past that building right there. And then because there's so much light here, you're always going to have a contrast where this foreground is going to be a pure lot darker. You see how that really pushes that hot versus like something that's really bright versus something that's in shadow. So I just want to create that illusion. Maybe we can try that, putting this on an effect like multiply or something. And because sometimes when you use soft brushes, you kind of lose your sense of ground. So it's always nice to kind of create a layer right on top of it and then just paint in, you know, just some like random scuffs and, you know, just direction. Make an adjustment on this leg and pull it a bit. And this is where, like, if you wanted to add certain things on your mech that you couldn't in the model, this is where you can do that, make those changes. Duplicate this mech. Use this as a shadow. Of course, like in this lighting scenario, I'm not going to get really harsh lighting, but I just want to use this as a base and then blur it a bit. Gaussian blur. That's not going to work. Since this thing's already in shadow, you're probably not going to you're not going to have any shadow on this thing. Not as much. Maybe you can like, you might have some like signage and stuff here, some debris or rubble. I'm going to use this value here to kind of paint my areas of highlight, because again, I want to stick within the proper value range. That way I don't, it still appears as if it's still in shadow and it's not blowing out, because if I use this white here, then you're really pushing your value range and it gets all jacked up. Maybe we can see like partially inside the building. Some advertisements and stuff back here. Something. And when you guys do backgrounds and stuff, make sure you add like tiny bits of like some areas where you can kind of identify scale, whether it's like a fence or it really helps to kind of get a good sense of the environment or just the overall size of this thing. Ground texture. Everyone understand this so far? Kind of like how I've extracted the photo and putting it in the environment. Okay. What's up? I'm still recording. Amazing. Damn. Okay, so I want this vibe for, yeah.
I got here a little late. I hope you don't mind asking. How did you get your initial color palette?
Okay.
Or background?
So once I've extracted my mech from the photo, this is originally where it came from. It was like this. Okay. It was actually more like this. Okay, so that's kind of how the photo looked. And once I extracted it, I put in this background, and the color palette came from this photo source here. I used a good portion of this ground plane to kind of start my photo, my background, and these building images here were extracted from this photo here, because I'm not really good at painting buildings from memory, so I have to kind of, look at photos or kind of pull out elements from a photo to kind of implement into my background. So I kind of added it here at the top and I painted in the rest. But you can kind of tell that this lighting scenario is a bit flat. You know, it's not really dynamic, or there's no hard shadows or lights going on. And that's where I went into curves and I created this light source here. But then once you create a light source, if something's brighter, then by contrast, something has to be darker. It just works that way, right? So if you have a strong light source, then you're gonna have something that's gonna become darker. That's where I push the shadows more to become more shadow-like. And then here, I just started adding some more ground plane, because when you use a soft brush, it starts to look too muddy. The only reason why it looks too muddy because there's no definite or defined hard edges. And a lot of like illustrators that paint traditionally, they do washes, right? They'll do like things like where they glaze. But if you leave it at that glaze stage, then it looks like a fuzzy image. That's why like your painting instructors or your teachers will tell you like, oh, when you look at something, squint by using your eyes, just squint, right? When you squint, you're kind of getting just a graphic image. So that's the same concept with doing this stuff. Everything kind of starts off with a wash and just kind of a generalization of where you want your dark areas and your light areas, and then you define them by your hard edges right here. Like this building back here, that's a hard edge, right? This building that's in shadow against this light sky, that's a hard edge too. So it starts to kind of give it, create more information. And then here I painted the shadow for this guy. And then, yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. And my next step is, utilizing the photos, because I didn't know what color I wanted the mech to be. And I kind of want this this white military color palette with the rust stains. So with this mech, I want it to have that same vibe. So I'm going to select it again, and instead of it getting brighter, I want to change the hue. So it's probably going to be less warm but more cooler, and then maybe a little bit brighter. Let's see if that works. No, it's not going to work. Does that sort of answer your question, Ralph? Okay. Just wanted to make sure if that made any sense. So using some of this rust. See, I'm just color picking here. I want to kind of reference this color palette, but also keep in mind that I don't want to go too bright, since my mech is in the shadow area. And then just for the decals go, like, I want to just pull like random things like numbers, some graphic patterns that might be cool. I don't know what the hell this is, but I'm going to use it. These are awesome too. So I have my graphics on the side. Start painting. Create a layer, put it on top. Start kind of weathering my mech. So this is kind of the great thing about just having really cool models that we can work from, is that a lot of the lighting is pretty much done, so I don't have to worry about the viscom aspect of it. some textures and stuff here. There's things that I kind of wanted to add in this mech outside of just kind of colorizing it. Maybe it'd be cool to kind of have like some kind of camera system or something techy that we couldn't quite get from the kit bashing. So I'm going to color pick and use the values that it has here. I'm just going to add on some pieces. I'm gonna pick this blue right here and start popping that into my mech. So that's gonna kind of tie everything in terms of, you know, getting all the color palettes to relate or harmonizing it. Dude, I'm not familiar with this tool presets. It's kind of weird. It's such a weird thing when you're using someone else's tool presets. I mean, ideally it should be kind of the same thing because you're just painting digitally, but it's like using someone else's computer. It just feels different, you know. It doesn't have your settings on there. I find it like really hard to kind of adjust. It's so bizarre. Save that. Go right here, put military camera unit. See what that looks like. This is kind of cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this piece here and just stick it onto my mech. I think it's like an attachment. I have no idea. Usually, military camera equipment that goes on the vehicles, they're kind of prefabricated to fit on there, as opposed to being like an afterthought. But I don't know what this one is. This one kind of looks like just a random attachment that I will use for this. Again, when you implement photos, make sure you kind of paint away the photo quality of it. You want to just retain the details that you need, but there's like weird highlights here that I don't have in the rest of my painting. So I'm gonna kind of just give that a wash so it blends it in a little bit more nicely. So a lot of matte painters, they're very like conscious of that. Like, you know, when they put in a photo, it's not the fact that they're actually using photos to do their work, but it's more about how they're managing and adjusting their values to fit accordingly. That's what makes it so like appealing, like the way they were able to kind of get everything to fit and work together. this point, it's just kind of, it's a lot of just touch up and noodling and just kind of having fun with the details. Are there any questions? I'm gonna start applying my decals here. Yeah? A light side? Painting for a light side for the mech? Yeah. Right now, because it's just kind of like flat. What I was thinking, I wanted to kind of change the orientation of the lighting, and maybe have have the sun or the light hit up this side or something. I think it is, just because you can kind of get it implemented into your mech. Details or decals? Yeah. I think it just. I mean, there's no right or wrong way. It's going to be kind of preference based, but typically I like to just kind of bounce around. And for this one, I wanted to establish all my details because the values for this thing is pretty much finished and done. And the only thing I'm going to change is really the lighting. If I'm going to adjust something, so it's just kind of just noodling this thing and refining edges and just kind of getting this thing to read and feel like it's kind of a part of this environment. doing overall like curves again. Actually. Um, it's a lot. I feel like I get more control for some reason. That's just, I don't know. It's like preference. I think you can do the same things in levels because you can move the slider. But curves is more of like an overall. You're not messing with the brights or the darks. You're just kind of messing with the mid-tone range without having to wash it out either. Because I know in levels, if you move that middle slider, your 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 darks are going to become a little bit lighter, and your whites are become a little brighter. But then they also kind of fuse in together. So it's just kind of lightening everything. But as in curves, it dynamically lightens everything. So it keeps all your value range. As where if you go into levels and you're to just kind of shift everything, it'll look a little weird. Like if I were to do this, you see how it adds white? This adds white and this adds dark, right? But in curves, the cool thing is that this doesn't really add white, it brightens it. You know what I mean? It brightens the contrast. This brightens the contrast, or darkens the contrast. So that's kind of the difference from what I learned. So I'm going to probably add that little bit of light source right there. Maybe you got like the sun just peeking out. And then this right here is a smudge tool. This is a really good way to kind of get like nice blends. Just paint in this sky color as my secondary light source. pretty much it. Do you guys have any questions?
You think both of them have to
Yeah. If I can get it to extract properly. I hope it will. Alright, let's take a quick, let's take a 15-minute break. Let's come back here by 9. You guys can go to the liquor store or hang out, whatever. Store. Yeah. What's that? Not as much as I wish I would. I should. The pressure sensitivity? No, actually, it hasn't really gone bad on me yet. Oh man, that is bizarre. I did. Yeah, I do. Yeah, and you have to use your mouse to kind of. Yeah. God, man, that thing's annoying. Really? Is this something to do with your driver, perhaps, or? Man, that's bizarre. Really? Man, that is weird, man. Yeah.
Sort of afraid now, like when my tab would try and disappear on the last time, the whole computer ended up dying on me. So now I'm like, okay.
Dude, that is weird, man. I've had similar issues, but not to that degree. That's pretty extreme, man. Yeah, no. I've had so many issues with Windows. Yeah. Kind of ask myself, why didn't I ever switch over? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I bought that for the same reason too. Yeah. I use an Apple screen, an Apple monitor, yeah. But I have a PC tower.
Did you get the older ones? Not the new ones, right?
Yeah, I have the old one and the new one.
You got the new ones?
Yeah.
The new ones are so expensive.
Wait, the 27-inch?
The monitors, just plain monitors, cost almost as much as an iPad.
We're talking about the 27-inch, right?
I don't know what it is. All I know is that they're ridiculous, like a grand,
Yeah,
or something, 1200.
I bought that one.
No, they used to have different sizes. They stopped making them. They only have one. No,
They always had the 30-inch.
they used to have 20 inches, and out, but they stopped making those. Unfortunately, that sucks. I don't want it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know the Dell Sharps are actually really good.
Those sharks?
Yeah.
Yeah. They need to replace one. What size? Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, subject prices, I do a lot of work on that stuff. Thinking Amazon and stuff. When
Actually, good.
I worked with Orange TV, all the background artists used, what's that, there's another brand, the Destiny or something.
Again. I have the same problem, and I don't handle Mac monitor. Yeah. Maybe it's just a universal.
That's why I was thinking of just getting the Dell, just getting a Dell monitor.
Right, exactly.
Actually, supposedly they have better, if you look at, there's the spec, those are extremely good.
I love the way they do that.
I love the Mac stuff, there's it's $1,000.
I know, just for a monitor.
I guess it's your job. I can get,
Well, like I said, just go get the app. You're like $200 more, man.
then I gotta buy.
I don't have one, but I've actually been tempted to.
Pretty fast, just get a good monitor and Mac Mini, and it's like, the monitor will last for years. Just swap out the TV.
Well, I have a tower, so.
What's up? Just email it to me.
John, did you check the stuff I posted? Yeah.
Oh, when did you post it?
Right, guy.
Oh, no, I didn't actually.
There's some stuff you hadn't seen.
Hope to see it, man. How you doing, Ron?
Did this guy. He's on one.
Dude, that is sick.
You hadn't seen it before. It's online. It's